Coach, and start with your thoughts on Toronto getting a bunch of guys back healthy tonight. Just your thoughts on how unique a challenge this is for you guys.
Yeah, big challenge. Down bodies and back to back. We are being challenged in general during this stretch of the season with a bunch of injuries, but that can hopefully provide us an opportunity to grow resolve and get tougher. And tonight, Toronto's going to have some excellent players, some winners, some guys that'll test us. So, we got to be prepared to play well and have a good start.
Blake available second half of back-to-back. How will you utilize him and manage his minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, but with the amount of healthy bodies, we talked it over and we decided that he's wanted to play in the back-to-backs, so we're gonna see how it goes, and hopefully we try to limit his minutes, but it's a difficult thing to do in practice. But we definitely don't want to overexpose him on his first back-to-back in a long time.
Brian Lewis with the New York Post.
Hey, Steve. I'm curious if you have any further clarity on Kevin's status and his situation, and whether you think he'd be ready to play by Friday.
He is day to day, so I think Friday or Sunday are very possible. I'm not sure when it would be, but or if it would be either of those games. But he is day to day, so if he keeps progressing at this rate, I think Friday or Sunday are very possible.
Greg Logan with Newsday.
Steve, can you provide any details on why Perry is out of COVID protocol, but Claxton is still in it?
I am not certain of the situation, or I'm not sure if I'm up to date on exactly how that's happened, but I do know that Reggie is available and that Nick is pending more tests.
Malika Andrews with ESPN.
Steve, just a little bit bigger picture, I guess, at this point in the season, is it more important, less important when you're looking at trying to keep the team together, even when guys are off and for different reasons, to have everybody or most people around more often? Does that make sense?
As far as just the group traveling together, do you mean?
I mean, traveling together, having people around for practice, this, that, and the other, even if it's not coming into fruition on the court, like having, James there when he can be and Tyler there when he can be and this, that, and the other.
No, in an ideal world, we have the whole group together all the time. It's tricky. For example, our team meeting yesterday in New Orleans, two guys are off getting scans. So, it's like there's always something that comes up and it makes it difficult. But as long as we have that, connectivity and trust in one another, which I think we've formed, it's not, I don't think, paramount that everyone's there for every single moment, but I do think that the more time we get to spend together, the more our bonds will grow and the more we'll trust each other, the more we'll feel, a willingness to do the extra mile for one another. So I think it's positive when everyone's around, but I don't think it's realistic to think it's always going to happen, and nor is it necessary.
Stephen Bondi with the New York Daily News.
Hey, Steve, whenever Kevin Durant comes back, whether it's the next game or somewhere down the line, what's the plan for him in terms of, are you going to take it slow, or are you going to put him in the starting lineup right away, 30 plus minutes right away, or is it going to be a slow ramp up?
I haven't actually thought about it yet. And that's just a discussion to have with Kevin and performance and make sure that we're all on the same page. He was just kind of creeping out of his ramp up. And so how much this sets him back or doesn't, I'm not totally sure. So I think that's something that we'll have to monitor and make a decision on when the time comes.
Michael Grange with Sportsnet.
Hi, Steve. Hope you're doing well.
Thanks.
Yeah. Just following along and you're, who knows when you're going to have your big three and let alone your whole team together. Is there anything in that? Is there any kind of analogy to maybe some of your experiences you had playing internationally for Canada, where guys would sort of kind of arrive, spend a limited amount of time together, and then have to peak for big international events? Or is that sort of a reach on my part?
I wouldn't have made the analogy just because it feels like totally different environments, but I'm sure there are some things are analogous. I mean, we could, end up having guys in and out for the rest of the way, not just this regular season, but the playoffs. You just never know. So I think our ability to adapt, and that is something that when you play international basketball, you are constantly, I think, often you're constantly adapting to guys being in and out, or who's coming, when they're coming, and all that stuff. So I would have never made that analogy because they're different competitions, but there are some similar veins there in that it's not so linear, and that it is kind of, the only difference is that playing for your country is always kind of secondary to your day job. So you go off and play, and then your availability is more dependent on your day job, so to speak. And so here, this is the day job, and so I wouldn't have made that analogy, but there are probably some similarities.
Back to Michael Grady with Yes Network.
Another quick one on Blake, Coach. I'm just curious from your standpoint, knowing how you've had to manage Blake. Is it a combination of getting excited, but you also hold your breath when you see him not hesitate to dive for loose balls or step in and take charges out there for your team?
Well, I love it. I love the intensity and the fire he brings. This is a guy who, carried his teams for much of his career, and for him to come off the bench many nights, for him to, be diving on the floor, taking charges, being aware defensively to rotate and do all those things that he's provided for us, that's fantastic. It shows that he's happy to be here. He wants to contribute, and he wants to find ways that he can contribute that don't just, emulate the traditional, superstar. So he's still capable of scoring, he's still capable of making plays and rebounding, but his hustle and his intensity and his willingness, I think, has been, really great for not only our team, but it's rubbed off on his teammates. So I think we're, taking a ton of charges since he's arrived, and that's something that we weren't doing before he arrived. And so, I think he, in more ways than one, has influenced the group in a positive manner.
Steve Lichtenstein with WFA.
Hi, Steve. What is the latest as to the traveling parties, vaccinations, and have you received clarity from the league based on the new health guidelines about whether certain protocols can be relaxed?
I think there is a bunch of things that are relaxed if you've been vaccinated. I'm not as abreast of them as I probably should be. And in some ways, the protocols have changed, not just if you get a vaccination, but coming out of All-Star break, they heighten things. That certain stretches in the first half, they heighten things. So heightened and relaxed, I kind of just try to stick to, what the bare minimums and keep it there, and not try to think too much about what extra stuff I can do now or not do, just because, it's such a routine. I just trying to stick with it and keep moving and trying to help this team reach its best level.